What's up, guys? I'm Harvey with Simple Solutions Real Estate LLC, a Homevestor Franchise. And today I'm here with Casey Marks with Marks Building Company, formerly of Fund That Flip, and Jeff.Hotz of Marcor Investments, also a Homevestor's franchise. And we're going to be talking about what they are seeing in the real estate investment market and maybe broader markets post-COVID. We're going to kick off the episode today just kind of talking about what's going on in the real estate investment space post the COVID-19 breakout and its impact on the United States and the real estate investment space. So Jeff, we'll start with you. What are you seeing out there? What does the space look like now? And is that any different than what it looked like 6-8 weeks ago?
Yeah, no. So, physically, I think a lot of us have grown beards. So that's what's happening. So that looks a lot different. Besides a Homevestor franchise, I'm also what's called a development agent, responsible for support of franchisees, generally just throughout Ohio, but we interact with development agents nationwide. And it's interesting. It's great because we want to see what's going on the West Coast, on the East Coast. I think sometimes here in the Midwest, we're kind of a lagging indicator to the rest of the country. So it's been pretty consistent. There's still a lot of market activity. There's still a lot of, I just listed a property not long ago within the COVID time period, multiple offers over asking price. Had another one that listed multiples over asking. Had a burnout property that I listed here, a big old rehab in Dublin, Ohio. I listed as is. It was the intention to go that route. Bigger project than I thought maybe made sense right now. Trying to be a little bit conservative on my own franchise and saw some opportunity to use that money in a different way. So I put that out as is. I think we had 50 showings over 3 days for a burnout. Wow. Which was insane. I mean, obviously the price point was great. $200 and some $1,000 price point for a 530 plus ARV property. So, what a big old rehab. We got multiple offers on that. So we're seeing the MLS stuff, and this is nationwide too. This is California. This is Boston. We're seeing stuff on MLS. The volume is still there. Inventory is still down. It was down before the crash. It's down even more now because I think we're seeing that owner occupants, maybe people that are living in their houses, aren't putting those up on MLS, don't want people coming through. The vacant properties that us investors are putting out there are moving pretty quickly. Other side of that, let's say if you're into wholesaling, and I do a little bit of that here and there where it makes sense. I think some of the investor money is dried up. Homevestors we've got cash to play with. So as long as the numbers make sense, Homevestors will lend us the money 100%. So there are still investors. I think those investors that are capitalized, those investors that have money in the bank where their funding sources didn't dry up, I think are still in business, but I think it did cut out some people. And also I think just emotions. I think there's, this is a mentality game. You got to push through and you got to decide what makes sense to your business based on hard facts and not just, well, the world's collapsing. Well, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if that's happening. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it doesn't seem like it's happening right now to me. So I'm going to keep blowing forward.
Cool. Yeah. And Casey, maybe talk from the construction side, what you're seeing. Has your action increased? Is it about the same? What's going on out there?
Yeah. So personally, I took a lot of our focus on any flips and any rentals that we had. And I actually said, hey, let's stop doing the higher end stuff, the big projects that are going to take time. And like you might have holdups with mechanicals, anything that has to do with a third party coming out to your property. That's been something we're trying to steer at least a lot of the clients we work for away from and say, hey, let's not do that because it could cause unnecessary delays in your project and hold everything up.
Right.
There hasn't really been a much of a slowdown, I would say, on anything that's commercial or government. So we've still consistently, we're still taking Metro Parks jobs. We're still taking, anything that has to do with the parks or government-backed projects. Investor-wise, it's I'm actually busier than I have ever been, just simply because of the fact that everyone wants to move their inventory quickly. the question I get constantly is how fast could you get this done? It's just like, hey, there's a lot of people in line, but I try and give them a realistic time frame of when we can actually have it finished and back up on the market. A lot of that inventory right now is very cosmetic. There's no one really taking down like, hey, I'm going to rip the roof off and go up and take a risk on this one. So that's what we're seeing right now a lot in the construction space is trying to plan as best as possible for those delays. Some other unique stuff too that like the cities are doing, they're doing virtual walkthroughs. A lot of the inspections that are happening. So like if you want to get your mechanicals taken care of, depending on whatever municipality you're in, sometimes it'll actually allow you to do like a FaceTime video to go through some of the basic repairs rather than have someone sent out there. In Cleveland, we deal with what's called point of sale. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it's a checklist item that you have to go through, and then you have to go through the city. A lot of different cities throughout Cleveland to go and get them to sign off, and they actually have to have someone show up at the property. I'm Jeff. I think you're familiar with point of sale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's slowing down a little bit, and like that's what we're starting to see. But everyone's still moving along. You just have to change your game plan and be a little bit more strategic about when you're planning and actually coordinating those. And maybe instead of waiting a week out, go 3 weeks out, right when the project starts. Make sure you hit your timeline appropriately when the inspectors are going to be showing up.
Right. And then you were heavy into the lending side of things for a year and a half at least, right? I mean, I know you were really active down in the Columbus market with Fund That Flip, and I'm certain you still have insights into what's going on out there with lending. So what's going on with lending?
Yeah, I mean, as anyone who's in the space knows that when the COVID-19, everything was happening, states were shutting down, everything was moving very quickly to the point of it was hourly updates. I mean, in a span of a week, we went from people saying yes, investors, Wall Street saying yes, to everyone saying no, and they're rapidly like trying to revamp their guidelines and change their credit criteria, their boxes, like what they wanted to actually see on any given new deal that they had to purchase. So like in the span of 3 or 4 days, it went from everyone's still getting the same leverage points that they had before at the same pricing. So you started to see the announcement of a lot of the heavy hitters out in the industry saying like, hey, we're on pause for the moment, or we're tapering back leverage significantly. And I think a lot of that had to do with that no one really knew what was going to happen. I'll use Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania as an example. Is overnight, the entire real estate industry was shut down. So in essence, like you can't go out to a job site anymore. Like you can't advance your projects. I was on the phone with some of our investors saying like, yeah, I just had to go out there and post a sign on my new build $2 million project that says like, don't show up anymore. I can't, because they're actually taking fines. So a lot of things happen very quickly. And I think everyone put the pause button on, and everyone they went into the same type of mode that any investor went through for that 2 to 3 week time frame. It was like, hey, I got a lot of cash out there. What should I be doing with it? And everyone wanted to have cash, wanted to keep it. I think a lot of those lenders had the same exact thought process of like, hey, I can't keep closing consistently on deals because I don't know if I can actually sell them to the secondary market or not. So that market in itself has dried up. Like that, those note buyers, those hedge funds, those family offices, those institutional capital partners, they stopped buying. And I do believe that some of them are coming back online again now with like new criteria, new guidelines of like, hey, this is your new pricing, this is your new down payment. But a lot of those hedge funds, those family offices like that were out there, they just said, we're out. We're not going to do anything, because like the last thing they wanted to do is buy paper that they couldn't move themselves. So that happened in about a 3 to 5 day time frame.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of action.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think that you still have lenders that are out there lending right now. It just depends on where they get their capital from. Was it a warehouse line? Is it their own money? Are they originating off of like some sort of PPM that they've had in place, and like maybe they just tighten up their boxes too? So like you can still get money out there. Just looks a little bit different than it did 2 months ago.
And Jeff, so in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, as we start to hopefully move into phase 1 reopening and phase 2 reopening, What do you think that looks like for real estate investors?
I think a lot of this goes to like volatility index, if you guys know what that is and study. Like had an economic background a while ago. But I think I've been looking at that too. It's, when consumer confidence is up, when people see, and we saw that a little bit in the last week as there started to be some good news that came out. It wasn't all, look how many people are dying, look what's going on. It was like, we're okay, we're going to start opening. We don't really know what that means or what that looks like. And that's when we started seeing a little bit more activity. What was really interesting is we had a franchise here in Columbus that had a property that they tried to assign that contract before closing. They tried to move that paper and they just got no response off of any of the investors they knew to be able to assign that contract. So they actually closed on it and they listed it and they put it on MLS. They listed it higher than they were trying to assign to investor, and they actually got multiple offers above that price that went way above that price. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think that's the difference between, there are people out there that have cash. They just need to feel comfortable that they can use it. And I think as some more, look to the news, look to see what the news is always pushing negative info, but you'll see that there starts to be some kind of trend like, okay, we're opening up. These are good things that are happening. There's some stuff happening here. It's the unknown with the market and anybody that, when we don't know what's happening, we get conservative. And as soon as we feel more confident and comfortable, I think there's going to be more and more investors and people coming out of the woodwork. It's not going to look anything like it did before. It's going to be different. And it's just like anything in real estate, 2 years was different than this year, which is different than tomorrow and 5 years ago. And you just keep rolling through and keep looking at what's happening. But so far the writing's on the wall that I think that, will things go back to the way that they were? No. But I'm confident that it still seems like it's a great market. Cleveland, I know Cleveland and Columbus and all these Midwest markets have been hit pretty hard in the last crash, but then came back roaring because they're so much cheaper than some other areas. So these are great markets to invest. I can tell you, I came from Chicago, and wow, that's a really expensive market. I'm buying and selling a ton more stuff here, holding a lot more rentals than I was over there just based on the economies. And I think other people around the country are picking up on that.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think for the people who are still left standing, we will benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I bought a really good rental, put a really good rental under contract last week. Really good one. Yeah. And that's a margin that I haven't been able to get here in Columbus in a while. So I'm excited about that.
You were saying earlier about kind of how lending might change and people kind of tightening their boxes. The people who are still lending. Anything else you see over the next, 4 to 6 weeks in our space?
Yeah. So I think your first, if you start shopping around and like asking lenders what they're looking for, you're going to see an increased credit box. So you're going to be going from, I think it was pretty much 600 was the bottom before. I think you're going to be seeing something in like the mid 600s now as like your bottom. Down payments, I believe, are going to be heavier. You used to be able to put 5-10% down sometimes. You're going to be looking at 20 to 30%. They're going to want to see, like, in terms of actually going through the construction, you're going to have to provide permits. You're going to have to provide proof that inspections were done. So a lot of the things that got really lax there for a while because like everyone trusted. It's not just the lender, it's the capital behind them. They're starting to ask those questions. So I think that what we'll see here is a limited pool of lenders that remain when all this is done. Those that had cash, those that planned accordingly, those that were ready for something to happen, they're going to still be around. I've talked to a couple other peers that I had in the industry too, that they're saying the same thing. Is like you're actually starting to see people talk about merging at this point too, which is really fascinating. I'd be curious to see who comes out in the next couple of weeks that, hey, maybe you see two big players that were both in different markets join forces, or maybe some of the big players that are out there actually come in and buy some of these smaller shops that are struggling with cash. I wouldn't be shocked if that starts happening sooner than later. And if things go back to normal next week, I don't know. If it's 2 months from now and you still can't go to the bar and have a drink, like that might be a different situation. So we're I believe that is like what a lot of the leadership at any lender right now is talking about consistently. And they're also trying to find who's going to be the first shop or that first institutional partner that comes back and says like, hey, we're online. This is what it looks like. But yeah, to your point though, you can find capital out there. It's just not going to be in terms of what it's 2 months ago. unless you had a really, really strong relationship with them. So.
Right. Cool. Hey, well, listen, guys, this was extremely helpful. Me and, everyone else in this space kind of still trying to figure out what's going on and what's going to happen. And as you know, we do dealmaker sessions on a monthly basis. We can't have those right now. So you guys out there can look forward to more content like this, hosted by your Columbus Homevestor franchisees as part of the dealmakers sessions, even though it might look a little bit different. And then we'll be picking back up with in-person dealmaker sessions, hopefully mid-August, right, Jeff?
12th, yeah. August 12th is the next one we have booked, ready to go. In the event we canceled everything until then, I think that's about likely when we might be able to get back together. We'll see. Hopefully we can.
Awesome. So Casey, from moving forward, where can people reach out to you? Where can they find you? Where are you active?
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere from Akron north. I plan to double up my crew on the construction side, have over 30 employees here in the next 2 months. So I'm planning ahead. You can reach me at my cell phone. It's 440-289-0707. And my email is kccasey@marksbuilding.com. That's MARKS building.com.
How about you, Jeff? Where can they find you?
Oh man, the Off Market Columbus Facebook group is a great place.
Yeah.
I'll put my number. We'll probably put it up here: 614-602-2262, and then Jeff.Hotz, Hotz at Homevestors, HOMEVESTORS.com.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks again, guys. Again, I'm Harvey with Simple Solutions Real Estate, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you around.